Sinead, can you hear me? You're muted. You're unmuted, but I can't hear you. Sinead, can you hear me? You're muted. You're unmuted, but I
Can you hear us?
yes, I can hear you now.
Can you see us as well? Yeah.
And I can see you.
Yeah, there's the table there. Yeah, perfect.
It gets each week we come back, it gets better and better. I can see even more of you. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, how are you, David?
Oh, that's great. I can hear you clearly too. I'm also recording this meeting. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So what I'm trying to do to make things better is I'm trying to stream it to a private YouTube channel.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
We get David, no?
I'll let you know when I've got 5 million subscribers. Yeah, sure.
Send the invoice.
All right. So who wants to build the container?
Good morning, David. It's Gary. How are you? How are you today? Yeah, good stuff. I was looking at a couple of videos on YouTube this morning. They're very good. Really enjoyed them. Yeah, just glad to be here today. I really enjoyed last week's course. I was just reading up a lot on I was interested about the codependency, the independency, and the interdependent stuff that you were talking about. How we move from relying on ourselves, relying on others, to self-reliance, and then being able to share and enjoy our lives with other people. I thought that was really interesting, the continuum. So I really enjoyed that last week. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Who are you tagging?
Cormac.
Thanks. Good morning, David. Yeah, I'm really excited. Passed my full driving test yesterday.
Well done.
So yeah, just over the moon with that. But looking excited coming in this morning. We're just in a good mood today. Looking forward to taking on what we have ahead of us today. And yeah, just still like what we done last week. It's just still. I'm still amused how the difference between the shame and guilt, even though I had an idea of what it was just explained down to a T of actually what it was, how the difference in the other. So I'm looking forward to today. So
Fantastic.
We'll take Mark, Glenn.
Morning, David. I keep waiting to see if you can hear me. Morning, David.
I can hear. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just there. I'm still interested in the external coaching, the internal coaching, and I've a bit of catching up from last week. But on that last week, the week before, I missed a bit of online stuff to do.
Great. Who are you tagging?
Christian.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I was really interested I went on to the homework that you gave us, and I was really interested in the 4 causes of addiction, and the guilt and shame, and then the false belief system and the chemical imbalance and all of that. So I done the test as well, and I passed 10 out of 10. So I was delighted. Yay! So I'm looking forward to this week and see what else I can learn.
Great. Okay. Is there anyone else in the room?
There's only 4 of us today.
Fantastic. Okay, are you tagging me?
Yeah, I'll tag you, David.
Okay, great. So I check in. Thursdays is my favorite day of the week. I get to coach an organization called Epic Restart just before you guys, and then I'm getting to coach you guys, which is I'm finding very, very fulfilling and exciting for me. So I check in with a lot of joy. And I'm constantly looking at ways of how we can grow this and make things better. So I've added you to a WhatsApp group. I've added your WhatsApp group to a WhatsApp community, I think it is. So then we'll be doing a kind of announcements there and this sort of stuff, and then streaming this today to YouTube is a first as well. So yeah, I'm very excited about that. So the first thing is that we're learning about is a coaching conversation, how to create that by checking in, contracting, creating a container, checking what homework there was. Yep. So accountability pieces, and then finding out the agenda. Yep. So I handed that responsibility over to you guys today. Yep, you started with the check-in, and the one thing that came up was the continuums. The other thing that came up was the feelings, guilt and shame, anger, sadness, fear and joy, and getting some clarity around that. The other thing that came up was the 4 causes of addiction. And what was the other one? I was doing so well in remembering it all, and now it's just gone.
The 3 A's and the 3 C's. You have that, don't you?
No. I think it was. Is it Mark?
Yeah, Mark isn't here today.
Well, what your name is just standing up, Paul.
Glenn. Sorry, Glenn, David.
Glenn. Sorry, excuse me. What was the thing that you mentioned?
The external and internal coach.
Oh yes, external and internal coach. Okay, great. So from that, I can tell you guys are already thinking about this stuff and looking at this sort of stuff, and where does my role sit? Am I external? Am I internal? Is this person dual diagnosis? Are they traumatized? Are they just got some wonky thinking about this stuff? Yeah, what kind of feelings are going on for me as a person when I'm engaging with someone? What are they possibly going to go through? And so let's start there. Let's start with when we're with a client and they've got some feelings going on. What does it trigger for you on the continuum? Yep. So codependent, independent, interdependent. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I phoned my sister this morning. It's my nephew's birthday. Yep. He would have been 29 today. But 3 years ago, he suicided.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry to hear that.
Sorry to hear that, David.
So what happens to you when I put this real conversation in the container?
David, would you just say it again? Because we were just trying to figure out something here as you said it. Would you mind just saying that?
Okay.
You could say it again, thanks.
So I phoned my sister this morning. Yep. And I'm the oldest in the family. So she's my first sister. Yep. And her son, my nephew, suicided 3 years ago. He was in my clinic a couple of times, and he went to various other places. He really struggled with alcohol. And 3 years ago, he suicided. She found him hanging from a tree in her garden. Yeah, and she's been talking about this, and she's been to kind of bring some awareness to mental health and that. And then she put a post out on Facebook yesterday where people had been kind of telling her to get over her grief. This has been 3 years now. How can you keep going on about, the loss of your son? And she spoke about how grief is just kind of, it's something that's just kind of lives with her. So how does this story land with you guys?
I would have had the same thing a couple of months ago, a really close friend, about 2 months ago, again. He committed suicide, and he would have been dual diagnosis, and he reached out for my partner Mick. He's not here today, was his sponsor, and we always helped him, but we kind of knew that that's where his life was heading and that's where he was going to go. and I was very frustrated because I felt I didn't know there was more I could do for him, but what could I do for him? Like, what could I just supported him in a way that I could, but in the end, about 2 months ago, he took his own life, and it affected me and my family an awful lot.
Okay. So as I shared my story, it reminds you of a story of a time that you've been through this stuff. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Next.
That would have been 2 months ago, but then like 3 years ago, like yourself, I would have had a nephew that done the same thing, and still only getting kind of over that. And then so it's quite common in where we're from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next. What else does it trigger for you guys in the container?
David, it brings back memories for me. 5 years ago, my youngest son tried to take his own life in the house. He hung himself in the house as well. He was 15 when it happened, and I was using at the time. And it's so 6 months ago I did the same thing. So it brings back a lot of memories, but a lot of so what happened when it first happened, when he first told us he was struggling with suicidal thoughts, my first reaction was I was really calm, and I just asked him the question, what can I do for you? Rather than saying, get over it, do this, blah, 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 I just asked him, what do you need? What can I do for you? I remember that night that it happened, but I couldn't stop it. So somebody told me I'd lost somebody through suicide, that it's like a switch in their head. It just goes off and there's nothing you can do about it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But we did everything we could, and eventually it happened, and he survived it, thank God. But still to this day, and I think for probably the rest of our lives, we'll probably live in a little bit of fear that if something ever triggered, it might happen again. And now he has, unfortunately, through my drug addiction, he now lives in fear as well, because of a lot of the times when I leave the house, he kind of wants to know where I'm going, because when the last time I did leave the house, I didn't say that and I overdosed. So that triggers me, both of us. It triggers the whole family, because it hurts me because I feel they should trust me, but I understand that they still have that fear of me leaving the house. I mean, even if I have to go to the shop. But when he doesn't come home at night, or if he's staying in his friends or doing something, like he didn't come home the other night, he was out with his friends, and he didn't tell me he was staying out, and I woke up, he wasn't in his bed, and my mind just went crazy. So that's where I get triggered from things like that.
Okay, great. So my stories triggered you, and triggered a whole lot of events that have happened in your life as well. Yeah. Okay. Are you okay to carry on with this topic?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But remember, we're here to learn stuff. Yeah. This isn't therapy, but as we learn stuff, we might find it therapeutic because we get some understanding around it. But this is a classroom environment where we're learning how to use our lived experience in a professional way, so we can show up safely for the communities and families that we serve.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Next.
Just as you were saying, my emotions, a lot of empathy. I don't know close people that have lost their children, but I've know friends, all friends, and even still to this day, it's grieving, it's a very hard thing to get over, I just got a lot of empty, as you were saying the story, it's just sad, I couldn't look at, obvious memories came up of, people that I knew that have lost family members to suicide, and it's just triggered me emotions, So
it triggered sadness in you, and from that sadness, you were able to provide the action of empathizing.
Yeah.
So you're feeling the sadness. So, oh fuck, that's sad, and you're showing up in an empathetic way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Next.
Yeah, it'll be similar to Cormac, David, and then I was just thinking, how the fuck does someone get through that? just the same though, the emotions and things like that. But
Yeah.
they did bring up back memories as well, but it was more like the emotions and wondering how someone gets through something like that.
Okay. So how the fuck do you get through that? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, sorry for the language.
No. Your fucking language is fantastic. Thank you. And I would say in that, like, how the fuck do you get through that? There's a bit of frustration there, of anger, a bit of like, fuck, how can we, which is a great thing. Okay. All right. So we've brought up fear. Yeah. There's like anxiety of like, oh fuck, there's fear. There's sadness in the room and there's some anger as well. Okay. So fear gives us the gift of intuition. It allows us to see into the future. You know? What can we do now? Because like, fuck, I'm anxious. If we don't do this now, something's going to happen in the future. Yeah?
Yeah.
You were talking about how your partner had a sponsee. Yeah, the kind of, you knew that this was going to happen, and it didn't matter what we did. Somehow your intuition knew that this was going to happen. So in situations like that, when it does happen, often people can go, oh fuck, I knew this was going to happen, or fuck, thank God that's happened now, and there's a sense of relief around it because you don't have the anxiety anymore. And then you can often feel guilty about having those feelings. So, for example, when my sister and the husband cut Matthew down from the tree, and he kind of landed on the floor, my sister said she felt such relief come over her because she'd been trying so hard to prevent this thing from happening, and then it arrived. And then she was like a bit confused around the feelings of feeling relief that her son had just died. And if she talks about that to people that don't understand this stuff, that aren't able to empathize, or what, they would project all sorts of stories onto her, which just made things worse. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do in coaching is just to hold the space, the container for someone to be well with their unwellness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like, fuck, this is completely out of my league, but I'll be here with you because I'm sure you can sort this stuff out. I'm going to be here to support you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As opposed to panicking like, oh my God, no, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. Oh, he's gone to Jesus. It's be okay. All this sort of bullshit that happens.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can feel I'm getting a bit excited about this.
It's emotions.
Yeah. Well, it's. I feel, because I mean, one thing that event did realize, what I learned from it is how emotionally unintelligent lots of good-meaning people are.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that again. So how unemotionally intelligent a lot of good-meaning people are.
David, I think it's something to do with the language, the way we speak. So when I was struggling with addiction, and this is not say to do with suicide, but all I kept hearing from people, and especially from family, because they say family are sometimes the worst people that can speak to you when you're in addiction. It's, you'll be grand, everything's all right, get over yourself, blah, 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 and all that shit I heard all the time. And it sounds like it's and it's true. And I just shunned them. I just went away from them. I disconnected from them all because that's not what I wanted to hear. It's not what I needed to hear. It's the same thing. And like, I would never tell anybody. I'd be very private as regards talking about me, what happened to my son and his mental health problems. And because I didn't want to hear that stuff. I didn't want to hear people saying, just get over it, you'll be grand, he's all right. No, he's not all right. You don't have to live with him 24 hours a day. You don't have to worry about him. So I disconnected from everybody when that came, and I kept it really private. And that for me, I had to hold that in, and that was a lot for me to hold in as well. Like, because I find talking about my own suicide attempt, I find that there's like there's like freedom and transparency, if you like. For me, when I talk about it, I feel freer, but I couldn't talk about that because of exactly what you were saying. The language people were using was just wrong for me. Like,
Okay. And how do you feel as you share this now in this container?
anxious.
Anxious. Okay. Because I would say there was a bit of a frustration there in you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, fuck, you lot don't know what you're fucking talking about. Just fucking leave me alone. You don't know what it's like to be in this situation. It's my fucking son you're talking about. Like, fucking don't tell me it's going to be grand. Fuck off.
Yeah, and it's said they're good meaning people and they mean well. It's just maybe I don't know if it's an education they need around it, or maybe they haven't because they haven't been through it, and it's difficult for people when they haven't been through it. Like,
All right.
so Cormac would have struggled with addiction. So he has that empathy and compassion that we spoke about. Remember, we spoke about the difference between the cultures of the doctors and the cultures of us, where people in addiction have that empathy. And the first thing he said was, I'm empathetic towards situations like that. But that's what we do. I think people are in addiction. But people that are outside that don't see what or haven't lived that kind of thing of suicide or addiction, don't see it. And you always see from the outside, oh, he's just a junkie, he's just an addict, he's just this. No, he's not. They're people with illnesses. So does that make sense? Like,
Yeah, it's great. So what I'm noticing is that like the passion around this now. I just want to know, between me and you, do you think I've got it a little bit?
do I think you've got what? This is what we're talking about.
Hello? Hello?
You just
Yeah,
broke
just
down there.
froze it, did David? Is it back online?
Yeah, they are now.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Am I back?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hear what you said.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
I said, do you think I've got it a little bit? And as soon as I said that, the internet cut out. I was like, oh fuck, no, I haven't got it at all.
When you say do you think you've got it? Do we think that you understand it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Do you feel it's if
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
because you've lived it as well.
Yeah, sorry, David. I know I'm talking a bit much there, but I spoke to you last week. Remember I said to you about you got really emotional 2 or 3 weeks ago about your losing your home.
yes.
So you felt you were in a safe space here, but you understood because you knew we understood it because we've all been in the same situation. So yeah, I do definitely think you've got it because you've kind of had that lived experience of what I've gone through, Christina's gone through, maybe not the lads, but yeah, I do definitely think you've got it, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay. So now that you're feeling kind of seen, yeah? What would have been better?
Sorry, what was that question?
What was the question, David? Sorry, you just
Now you've been seen. Now you've been seen with the difficulty of the role of being a dad, having your own addiction issues, having your own kind of, suicidal attempts, what's going on with your son. Like, and you look at it now from a healthy space in the future. If you look at the past, what would have been better in that situation in the past?
For me, it would have been if I had more support around it, like a more understanding, and like being in addiction for so long, but like there was no help out there for like us. I was 22 years in addiction, so I knew no better. Do you know what I mean? So if there was a learning of there is other things that you can do, and it's just not like pick up and stuff like that, and more places like we're in today, like that would have helped an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, David, exactly like Christine, I would have used off that situation as well, the self-pity and fuck, my son, blah, blah, blah. And as serious as it was, but I think it comes back to the culture for me, 100% of the culture, because at the time, like you said to me a couple of months ago, that I think I'm having those feelings again. So I said, okay, what can I do for you? But I was able to understand it more, David, because I've been through it. And I think me being through it and surviving it has given me a lot more knowledge and a lot more insight. I can see the signs now where I couldn't see them before, okay?
Okay.
So we brought him to see psychiatrists and think it wasn't the answer. It was the usual fucking put him on medication for the rest of it. The usual bullshit. And I am getting angry and annoyed at it because It was just dedication.
I couldn't feel it.
But they just cut him off, David. He hasn't been seen again. He hasn't, they haven't. I don't mean this the way it sounds, but I'm happy I did what I did, that I survived what I did, because I'm more knowledgeable about it now, and we can talk to each other a lot better now. We can, because we've both been through the same scenario, and it's a lot easier on both of us. Like, I'm not the one that's constantly tense about him. He's not. So if he wants to say something to me, I'll ask. If he wants to ask me a question, I'll tell him. And if I want to ask him a question, he'll now open up to me. So the past is the past. What happened now for me going forward, we're in a much better place. But I have to accept that, and everyone has to accept. It's true what this fella said. It is like a switch in their head. It just never goes away. It can happen anytime. And we just have to deal with it. But I'm in a better place to deal with it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know whether this makes sense, but for me, like, coming to the last couple of years of my using, like, my ego was through the roof, and it was getting vulnerable. Talking to someone about, I thought I could manage. I thought I could do it on my own. And it was just like, it was getting vulnerable to someone, looking for help. I just couldn't look for the help, this would have been 2 years ago, where I reached out and I just couldn't do it anymore. Like that suicidal fucking psychosis, and that was just my breaking point where I need help. It was either that or it was going to be found dead. So I think for me, it was the difference back then was just fucking my ego. I couldn't get vulnerable with anybody. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm listening to myself, David, just listening from your own experiences and everybody else's. I think communication is a big key to it, and having somebody you can trust, that you can be honest with and tell them about what's going on in your head and how you feel, and about situations that come up. Just having someone on the other end of a phone that you can pick up to and just tell them, in case you're going through one of them moments, that you can just share it with somebody. Hopefully they can talk to you and put a bit of sense back into your head, like. Or communication and trust would be the two big ones for myself, like.
Yes.
Yeah, can you see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So let's see if this works. Why is this not working?
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the wrong color. But there you are. And here's someone else, and they share their story. So there's me, there's you, and then there's us.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then we've got our feelings. We've got guilt and shame, anger, sadness, fear, and then joy. Yep. So I shared a story today. I shared a story. I shared it to you. And how did that impact us? Does that make Does that make sense? So somebody felt fear, somebody felt sadness, somebody felt anger. Yep. And as I shared my kind of guilt and shame, anger, sadness, fear, and joy, putting my emotions in the story of us that we're holding would have impacted us individually. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So my story of the past of what happened impacted you in your stories and what's happened. Yep. Now,
Yeah.
if we go down the center here, whoops, that should be a different color. Let's see if this works. Does this work? Why is it gray? It should be blue. See if that works. There we go. If we go down the center and create an axis, yep, we want to make sure that the conversation is moving away from a culture of addiction, yep, to a culture of recovery. We want this to the conversation, the outcome to move towards the solution. Yep, as opposed to the problem.
Yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, don't worry about it, he'll be grand, it'll work itself out," that wasn't part of the solution. That moved towards the problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me close this so I can see you again. Okay. So where that conversation happens, yep, you guys will be thinking about what's going on for you internally. So when you get triggered, yep, it's like, oh, fuck, that suicide story triggers my past and my history. When do I share my history in aid of my client? Yep. Or like, fuck, I can't relate to that story at all. Even though I can't relate, how can I be empathetic and supportive? And what would that look like? Is this making sense?
Yeah, 100%. It's just like what Cormac said there, even though Cormac wasn't affected by it, he showed that empathy, that empathetic side, which is really important. Like.
And how did he do that? Because I agree with you, he did it very well.
He listened.
Yeah, he listened and he says, "Oh, I can empathize with you, but I've never gone through that shit."
Yeah.
Yeah? So it's like, fuck, I can empathize with you, but I've no idea what that's like. Which I think is much, much better than kind of saying, "Oh, fuck, don't worry, it'll work itself out. You'll be grand." You fucking da-da-da.
But even the second part you used was very important there, where he said, but I don't understand what it's like. He's being authentic, right? So he's just saying, I do empathize with you, but it hasn't happened to me, but I can understand. So that was really important, the second part of that conversation.
Very important, huh? So you don't necessarily have to have specific lived experience. It helps, but you don't necessarily have to have it. And how do you find out if this is beneficial for your client?
The reaction back to you, would it?
Yeah, you fucking ask them.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, Jesus, I don't know. It's like, yeah.
Sorry, Dave, what way would you approach that? Like, you ask them if it's beneficial what you're saying.
What are they getting out of it?
What are they getting from it? Like?
Yeah, what are you getting out of it? Like, so, guys, is this helpful for you? Is my teaching style helpful for you? Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of kind of history around Ireland, and you know, the famine and all this sort of stuff, and the impact of the English and all that sort of stuff. I've no fucking idea what that's like.
Yeah.
Haven't got a fucking clue, and all I can do is imagine what a fucking huge impact that's had on you, on you yourselves and your ancestors and your culture and everything. No wonder there's fucking so much, you know, addiction. Yep. But I haven't had direct experience with that. Is me talking about this helpful in any way?
100%, yeah.
Okay. So what is it that I'm doing that's making it helpful?
Explaining it, breaking it down, and then asking questions what we think about it and seeing how it's going through our heads, and like it's affecting each of us differently. So each of us have a different perspective on it, like a different answer.
Yeah, so like Glenn says, it gives us 4 different answers and 4 different ways of thinking about it. Yeah. And plus your honesty and your authenticity, and I know you've used this word loads of times yourself, is really important, because I just feel that I was going to ask you a question there a few minutes ago. What's it like for you to be able to say something like that to us, knowing that some of us have lived experience, but we all have lived experience of addiction? I would say it probably sounds a lot easier, or it's easier for you to say, because you know that we've suffered it and we empathise with you and we're compassionate. So I asked the question last week, had you been sitting here with people who had none of this lived experience, say they were in here and they were just coming in to do the course, would it be different? So I think the way you're speaking about it, it's the best for me already, the best class we've done, because it's real. It's all just chat, and everything that's been said we identify with.
So, would you like me to answer that question?
I didn't know it was a question, but you go ahead. Yeah.
Well, your question was, what was it like for you to share this with us? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, it's nice to be able to share it. I've got the anxiety in my head that says, fuck, is this appropriate to bring? Yeah, but fuck it, I'm going to bring it anyway. So that's the one thing. What it was like for me was it was a very difficult time, because I had 2 roles. One, I've had several roles, but one, there's the role of me being the brother to my sister, wanting to help her and my nephew. And then the other role I had was being the owner of the clinic and having a family member come in, because the family member was desperate, and the family was desperate. And so I've then got a family member in my place of work, which kind of impacted my roles with the other staff there. Yeah. And to give some history of this event, it's like both me and my sister grew up in a violent alcoholic home. And I went down the route of drugs, and I always said, well, at least I'm not an alcoholic like my father. My sister's trauma went down the route of, I'm going to give my kids everything that we never had as kids. So she basically grew up, left home, left the family, and went off and became very successful in terms of career and lifestyle on the outside. Yeah. So, and was very kind of judgmental of me and my behavior and what went on for me, because like my kids got taken away and put in foster care and all that shit. So for her to come to me, yeah, with her son, my nephew, and say, please help, and then him not ending up suiciding, and her not listening to the advice that we were giving as professionals, was very frustrating. Yeah. And it's something that's impacted me in quite deeply professionally, because the one thing I realized with this sort of stuff is everyone has a fucking opinion around this work. Yeah. And instead of acknowledging the kind of 24 years I've had of experience in this at that time, she would pick up advice from the neighbor or other desperate mothers in their environment that would say what you should be doing when they've got no professional experience with it. So I feel fucked off about that society, with all their opinions and everything, still, that still hooks me.
David, can I ask you a question? Did she blame you at all, like, because of
No.
No, that was good then.
No, I blamed myself. I mean, the little fucker started drinking hand sanitizer in the clinic. He started mixing himself drinks. And, he's like, fucking addicts are crafty. They're going to get fucking high wherever you put them, Yeah. And Jesus, it was during COVID, and we had to change our whole hand sanitizer policy because he was like, and we couldn't contain him. Yeah. So the team had to discharge him. Yeah. And then they struggled with the fact that, oh my God, we've discharged our boss's nephew and now he's killed himself. But so the consequences within the system were quite huge. But no, my sister wasn't angry. But I was fucking angry, and I still am angry at times. And yeah, my anger is about kind of being discriminated against for so long. It's like, oh yeah, David works with those people, and David this and that, and then when the problem appeared in her house, then it was like, oh fuck.
Could I just go on from where Christine said there? Two questions. First, when Christine said, did you feel guilty? Was it blame? Does your sister feel blame now for not taking your advice? And the second part is, you said that they had to discharge him. And we spoke about this thing a couple of weeks ago, where you said that a lot of the nurses over there now have recovery coach training. Did the recovery coach training come in after the likes of that incident?
So as a team, everyone's coach understands coaching, and we did have several containers around this to try and process the complexity of all the feelings around it. So in that context, yes. No.
How did your sister feel about it? Did she feel guilty that she did come to you earlier or didn't take your advice? How did that affect your life?
So I can go down that route, just like she can go down that route. But to be fair, you can't expect a mother who's kind of desperate to do anything for her child when the child is pretty determined to do what
He's going to do.
Yeah, I think you said once that switch has gone. And I mean, as we were talking to them leading up to it, because I spoke to the husband as well and everything, I said to them, listen, you can keep throwing money at this problem, yep, or you're going to have to kind of let go from the consequences. Like, I mean, they were doing all that classic codependent work, paying off his debts, doing this, that's all that enabling stuff. And when they stopped enabling or tried to stop, he ended up suiciding. So it's like, fuck. So the reality is there's lots and lots and lots of mixed feelings, lots of different perspectives that one can look at this sort of thing.
And in your organisation, what came out? What was the learning curve or the learning results from that incident? Like, okay, you had to discharge him, but what did you learn as an organisation? So when you talk about people, fathers and mothers do it the way they think it's right. We'll keep him in. We'll pay off his debts. We'll do all this. And so sometimes it doesn't work, and that's the result of it. Okay, so what did you learn from it? Is there something that you could then say, no, this is not the way to do it? Am I saying that right?
Yeah. So if anything, it was confirmation of what we're doing as an organization, doing well in terms of being compassionate, to understanding the whole system. So working with the family members, working with the patients, working with, the taking a multidisciplinary team approach to it, getting the psychiatric help, looking at the psychological unresolved issues of guilt, shame, and trauma. The kid went to a top private school in South Africa, and there was a whole lot of traumatic events that happened there. My own personal stuff was I really needed to back off as much as possible, because when I would go to work, the role of the father, of the uncle, the older brother would come in, and my family history would leak into the container. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when he was fucking drinking hand sanitizer, and we could see this guy was pissed, but we didn't know how he was getting high. It impacted me in a way that I would respond with like, how the fuck can you do this? How can you bring shame on the family? This is about business, which isn't the role. The role should be, fuck, we got a patient here that's fucking high, getting high. How is this happening, people? What's going on? And yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the and the way that we approach these things is with deep compassion. Yeah. Whereas other places that he got sent to, were very punitive. So the belief is if you punish them, then they'll stop. Yeah. So the last place he went to was a kind of a work camp where you do a lot of praying and you dig holes and you get shouted at, and then he left there and he went to a halfway house and he got pissed in the car on the hand sanitizer in the Uber, and the halfway house kicked him out. And he went back to his parents, and I think in the morning he just kind of decided, "Fuck, I'm exhausted with this shit," and just took himself out.
Yeah.
I just want to do a safety check. Yeah, I'm completely okay talking about this stuff. Yeah. As long as it's beneficial for you guys as well, and the role of coaching, and we're here to learn stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, David, for me, it's great because I love being honest in a group. I'm in a group every day and here in the day program, and I don't think maybe the lads would have known the situation Christine would have known. So for me, the honesty is great. They're able to know now. I don't have to hide anything else because I keep all that stuff in. Okay, so I'm glad that they know, and I'm comfortable talking about it, and I'm comfortable that I'm talking about it to someone like yourself included that has lived experience on it. So from a safety point of view, we'd be all right with that. And then, all right.
Okay, so from a safety perspective, this container's good, and we're learning, and so we were talking about internal, external coach, 4 causes of addiction, codependency, the continuums, and then the 5 core feelings: guilt and shame, anger, sadness, fear, and joy. So those were the 4 kind of topics that you brought to the container today. And I think in quite a good way, we've managed to create an adult learning environment.
Yeah, well, what we got from if you're dealing with a family member, you're better off just recommending them to services than dealing with them yourself. Me personally, because I would get a bit of frustration when they're not listening and things like that. So I think I'm sort of figuring out my role as I'm going along, where I'd be more comfortable like.
So what's going to make you good as peer recovery specialists and then recovery coaches is to know your environment. What's the external recovery capital available to someone when they have that internal recovery capital where they want to change?
Yeah.
And my nephew never had that, but the rest of the family around him had lots of that. It's like, fuck, we'll do anything. And then the question comes up is, who is the client? Who are you dealing with?
When you say who's the client, David, what do you mean by that? As in, what's their background? What have they been through?
To make sure the family don't become the clients.
So your client, can you hear me?
Yeah, froze again, David.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so your client is the system. Yeah. So I want you to start thinking about the system now. Yeah. So in your family system, when you went into a culture of recovery, did your family relationships change?
Yeah, and mine, when I come into recovery, like my whole family is after recovering an awful lot, like the kids and stuff like that. You can see it like daily, hourly, you can see it in them. So yeah, they would have recovered. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
Have you got time to carry on a bit longer?
Yeah.
Okay, good. This fucking pen's battery's died, so I'm going to have to draw with my finger. Okay, you see the whiteboard?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a culture of learning, culture of addiction, culture of recovery. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. And here's your family members, or here are family members, wherever they are. Yep. And here's your man over here in a culture of recovery. Yep.
Yeah.
And the family is over here, and the family have been impacted by this person's use, misuse, abuse, and dependence. They have been impacted watching their loved one go fucking mad. Make sense?
Yeah.
And now they've gone into a culture of recovery. Yep. So you're getting well. Yep.
Yeah.
And the family has been impacted by this person's behavior going down. And the family have post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And what that means is post means after. Trauma is too much, too soon, too quick. It's overwhelming. Stress is what's happening to the body, and disordered is the way that you respond to that. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have that. I would have very bad PTSD from
Yeah.
childhood or from traumatic events that has happened to me. So I know loads about that. Like, it still affects me today.
Yeah.
Really bad.
Okay. So you're over here with your post-traumatic stress disorder, and you're getting treatment for it, and
Yeah.
you're aware of it, and you're taking responsibility, and you're recovering from it.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, often the family members are unaware that they've got this,
Yeah.
and they want to put their responsibility, their recovery process on this person. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go out to the shop, my cell phone battery dies, the family freak out. Where is he? They phone up, they can't get hold of you on the phone. Yep. And then it's like, oh, fuck, he's gone off and he's this and he's that. And the family freak out. The person comes back into the house a couple of hours later. Fucking everyone's freaked out. And he says, but I just went to the shop and my cell phone died. You're fucking lying to us and we got this and that. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
Would you buy what I'm selling?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened to me loads.
Of course. So when I say who's the client, this is the client.
Family. Yeah.
Well, the family, the community, the country,
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, David, to be fair. Like, I thought you were talking about a one-to-one situation, but as a family thing, it makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So well, let's go back to my family maybe. Yep. So my sister's fear of economic insecurity. Yeah. Because of the lacking in her childhood and the shame that she was carrying around my alcoholic father and what happened. Yeah. Her projection onto her son was he must go to university, he must become an accountant, a financial advisor, and all that. But actually, when you spoke to him one-on-one, all he wanted to do was be a school teacher.
Yeah.
but that doesn't pay, and that's not good, and that's, so there's
Expectations.
there's all sorts of shit, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, I mean, what happens in my family now is like my sisters and I mean, I look at my kids, yeah, and I think, fuck, I know, what did I do to get this? Yeah, what did I do right to get all of this stuff? And my sister goes, what the fuck did I do wrong to get this? Yeah. So it seems quite unfair on another level as well. It's like all my kids are healthy, they're doing well in life. They're like, and I was the crackhead that went fucking mental, and the kids were taken away. So there's a
Yeah.
David, sorry, David, it just sounds like, and I've kind of said this a few times before, and even to my own family, sometimes you have to go through all this stuff, right, and come out the other side to realize what's important. So what are we grateful for being here today, for being healthy, for being drug free? So when you look at the two sides of it, I see a lot of people out there, and they have their kids are Gucci on the outside and broken on the inside, and it's not
exactly.
just. But we have lived this experience, so I would allow my children to make their own mistakes, because I always say to them, failure is the best teacher, okay? And let them be what they want to be. But that's because I've seen the other side of it. I've seen the side of, look, I know what all these wrong things are, because it was never forced on me. But I think when you force it on kids, and I see it today in sport, especially over here, the parents are forcing their kids to do certain things, to be at a certain level. They see this vision of grandeur with money in England, all this shit, and the kids constantly fail because they have the expectations. But I think the other side where you've come out is, no, you've lived through this, so I'm not going to let my kids, I'm going to teach my kids the right way, with the right values. You don't have to have all these cars and all this to live a happy life. But your kids are doing great, where your sister's on the other side of the spectrum, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know. It's life's a funny thing how it unfolds. So it's yeah. Anyway, the we do coaching to influence culture, to try and create a culture of recovery, and this is what we've got. And if you want it, come and get it. If you don't, that's okay. I'm going to look after me, and whatever your journey is that making sense? That's what I have to try and do with in my family, and yeah. Okay. How are you guys doing? Let's just do a quick whip around the room with one thing that you've learned today. Who wants to go first?
I've learned that, I said it to you earlier on, for me, and it's not from everything that you've said, it's that there's freedom and transparency for me. Talking about these things is really important. And I've also learned that the language is really important that we use when we're speaking to people. It doesn't matter whether it's in daily life or whether someone has suffered trauma. It's very, very important that, I know not everybody has empathy and compassion, but it's very, very important that you use the right language when you're speaking to people. And I'm sure that's the same when you're speaking to a client. You're not going to tell them what to do. You're going to empower them to do something. And I think Glenn or Cormac summed it up perfectly with his analogy of, I've empathy. I haven't suffered it, but I have empathy for the situation. And I think for me, that was just hit the nail on the head today.
That was great what Cormac said, yeah. Right, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I suppose just as well as Gary, the language you use, for me, like, it's like, even as you were explaining your story, like, I was thinking about my own kids. Is my kids gonna live the life that I lived? It brought that thought up, and it just kind of, it gets you thinking ahead, and what can you do to change that? you know, because my eldest fella would have seen a lot of my addiction, you know, he would have been dragged through it like with me. And I can still see the effects of it today with his anxiety. If me or my partner have an argument, as couples do, like, you know, the fear comes in him straight away as it would have when I would have been fucking so angry in addiction, like, you know, so it's just reassuring him today. And, you know, I suppose it's just being there for them today, you know, being present for them and just showing them that things are changing, you know. But yeah, just the language and how you approach people. And, you know, it's, I always remember even like when we do the aftercare on a Monday, like you're not always going to have a lived experience to identify with someone. You know, some people have different experience in all areas of their life, you know, but you can, like, say, I've been in a similar situation, you know, I can feel that, or like, as I felt the empathy for you today, like, you know, so that's what I got out today, like, so.
Myself today, it's I've a better understanding on the internal and external coaching, and then when you says ask is my teaching style helpful to you, because people like people that are doing the helping somebody, they have a way set in their heads, and sometimes they can enforce it on people and just keep rolling with what they think is best for the person. Whereas I'm after learning today, it's better to listen to the person as well and find it and ask them, are you helping them? Is what you're doing helping? And if not, you can change it up then if it's not, like.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would have learned a lot by the way I could relate to like the suicide attempt and stuff like that, and then with the kids rebuilding and the recovery coming back into the home, and also to listening and to communicate with someone and show them that like you're there for them and stuff like that. I would like, you don't have to have the, as the lad said, the lived experience, but just to be able to listen to someone and communicate with them is good.
Right.
That's us all.
That's everyone, yeah.
That's all here too.
Yeah, well, I've learned my time management's a fuck up, and I've got someone trying to come into the room on the outside. I think, oh God, am I juggling this now? And just, okay. All right, everyone. Well, here, let me let Busi in. We can do the checkout. Oh, it's not working. All right. So I check out with a lot of joy. Thank you all for letting me share, and I'm really enjoying this. I love it. Thank you. I check with a lot of joy.
Thanks a lot, David.
Looking forward to next week.
Cool. All right. Any homework?
Sorry.
You want to give us some homework? Go ahead. We're all eager to learn.
Just keep going through the material.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, David, just a question on that, because I missed the second and third week. So we were going through the stuff here last Thursday, and it was setting up the profile. Do we actually set up the profile now, or do we do that in a different session with you?
Set up the profile. I'm not too sure.
There was a couple of videos, wasn't there?
Yeah, you know, like
On Workplace.
yeah,
Don't worry about Workplace too much. Just go through the online content.
Right.
I'll be talking to you through WhatsApp and that. So that's it. So you're all grand there.
So just continue on with the videos and the questions and all that. Yeah.
Cool.
Perfect.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Really good.